Criticism is one of those insidious little behaviors that comes into our relationship and really eats at the spirit of who we are. Nobody likes to be criticized all the time, and especially by our soulmate.
Yeah, it's pretty demoralizing actually whenever you are trying to make a contribution and you're trying to really add value to a relationship by doing things that are really from a servant heart, but you get criticized instead of appreciated for that. That's a pretty tough place to be in.
It's very tough, and in fact, that's why I wrote this book, The Control Freak, because that's one of the marks, as you look at the anatomy of a control freak, is that they just are compelled to critique. They feel like it's their spiritual gift to point out what's wrong with you in every aspect.
Exactly, and here's it, and correct me if I'm wrong, control freak.
Oh, yes.
But here,
she says this is my autobiography,
yes,
by the way.
Yes, I do. But here, the definition of a control freak is that they care more about something than anybody else does, and they won't stop at being pushy to get their way because they're convinced it needs to be done a certain way, and they care more. They just have more energy for it. And when this becomes troublesome is when it's global.
Yeah.
When they think that they have a right to say this about every area. Now, everyone has certain tendencies. I'm a control freak about my children. I know how I want things to go for them, and I won't stop at being pushy to make sure that happens, but really not about much else, you know?
That's true. Not the car, not the way you do the dishes or anything else, right?
You kind of wish I'd be a little bit more. Yeah.
And so, but let me tell you where this is coming from for your husband. This is all derived from this kind of unconscious level of anxiety.
It is. It's all about anxiety, isn't it? And really that makes him look a little more vulnerable when you can understand that.
Yeah, it helps you kind of have a little bit more grace for him, because when you realize he's critiquing the way you're putting the dishes in the dishwasher or how you're organizing your closet or whatever it is, when you realize this is all stemming from some anxiety about him getting control of his world, you'll go, okay, this is helpful to kind of understand this about him. Doesn't mean you give him
doesn't let him off the hook.
No, not at all.
But it gives you a little bit of empathy.
Yeah, a little empathy and a little bit of grace. And then what does this mean for you? It means that you can begin to talk to him about this. What is it that he's feeling so anxious about? Why is it that he has this need to control you through criticism? Once you begin to kind of drill down on that a little bit, and this isn't a single conversation, this is over the course of many conversations to explore this together, you begin to kind of ease his tension there, and you will begin to see his criticism ease as well.
Now, I got to tell you, there was a little trick I used early on in our marriage whenever I felt we had a little bit of this dynamic.
Is this something I know about, or is this going to be news to me?
I think you did. We would get to the point where I would tell you, okay, you've officially entered the negative zone.
Right.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And I mean, because I would say, look, I can handle a criticism here, a critique there, but I get to a certain point where I get flooded, and I'm not going to be able to handle this anymore.
It was just your way of saying, you are pulling my spirit down significantly here, and you're changing the way I am. You're going to have somebody that you didn't want to marry if you continue this.
And I think that was great, because then you go, oh yeah, okay, you know, you wouldn't react that way, but I'm more of a pleaser than you, and criticism impacts me differently.
And what it does for your husband is help him recognize that this is not about you, it's about him.
Right.
And when he can kind of make that mental switch, that's when you'll begin to see some behavioral changes in your relationship.